What up guys, this is Chris with Gyroid 3D and I got a great idea for a project today. Let's get into it. So today's project is going to be a cross between 3D printing and resin. That would be epoxy resin. And this is a project I got an idea for a couple days ago. Actually, I've always wanted to make sort of like a 3D printed mold or object and fill it with resin. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna make this logo back here, my Gyroid 3D logo, in 3D print, and I'm going to fill it with resin so everything in between is filled in, and there'll be a top layer of resin as well, so it just gives it kind of a really high gloss look. And it's just going to be a little plaque I'm going to put on my wall, but it's more of just, you know, the idea of wanting to try this. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to design something real quick and then we'll print it out. And I am going to paint because some of these colors are going to require gradient, and my printer can't really do gradient painting or coloring, so I'm gonna have to paint some of these pieces. But once everything's painted and glued in place, we'll go ahead and pour resin, let it set, and it'll be a quick project, but let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I did was I brought in a JPEG image into this program here. This is 3D Builder. Again, very basic software, but I am looking to learn Blender, and that's going to take some time. But for now, I'm still using this software, and we took the JPEG image into 3D Builder, and so here is my logo. As you can see, it's a 3D image. It's got some dimension to it. And then we have this plate that I built as like a tray. It's sort of a tray. And originally, see, this little piece of lettering right here was part of, it was part of this, and I sliced it. So I went into slice here in the settings, split. It's called split. And what I did was I just brought it down to what seemed to be a couple layers here, and I split it so that this really thin layer on the bottom will sit right in this tray. And the reason I did that is because I'm gonna end up printing this as one piece here. This tray is going to be all black. Everything here is going to be black, and I'm going to print this separately. Now once I pull these off the build plate, they're all going to be separate pieces. So each one of these, each letter, everything's going to be separated once I pull it off the build plate. So in order to know exactly the spacing and where everything's going to be glued on, I went ahead and left this little slice so that when it's going to leave a little bit of that print on there. So I'll be able to glue each piece directly on top of, right where it's supposed to go. So now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and print this tray first. I'm going to set it up in Bamboo Labs, and then we'll go ahead and we'll print the letters second. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm opening up Bamboo Labs. Actually, this is Bamboo Studio. I'm going to bring up the file. I believe it's called Lightbox, Gyroid Lightbox Black. And I'm going to go ahead and slice this plate here. Make sure everything's paint it black, and we will slice this and we will print it out on my Bamboo Labs P1S. And that will be the first step, so let's go ahead and print that out. Alright guys, it's done. So here's my tray. I'll call it a tray, a frame. I call it a tray because it's going to be carrying resin. So now we're going to go ahead and print out the other piece, the gyroid letters and parts here. And we're going to glue them in place. Again, I'm going to have to paint some of them because I can't 3D print in these gradients. So where it goes from pink to purple to teal, that gradient, and teal to green to orange, I'm gonna have to paint that. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and just paint these. I do have purple, but this is more of a plum color, so I'm gonna paint everything that's colored here. I'm gonna paint by hand, and I'm gonna keep the gyroid letters in white. So let's go ahead and print that. And just like that, guys, it's done. Let's go ahead and take this build plate. See, the piece is already falling off. And we're losing them. Well, that's why we have the print, so we can see where these things go. There's all these pieces here. Some of them are very, oh, here we go. They're stuck on. So one thing I can do right now is, since the gyroid letters are going to stay white, I could go ahead and glue all these letters on here. So we're going to go ahead and glue those pieces in place. And then we're going to have to paint everything else. And then we'll glue those in place. And then the last step will just be filling it with resin, just pouring resin up to the rim, up to the brim here. And the way I designed it was the edge sits higher than the lettering, so there is going to be a layer of resin that's going to sit up top of the whole design. So it's going to be submerged in that, and hopefully it gives a nice thick glossy top layer. We're using Loctite. I don't know if you can see that. I usually like the blue bottle of Loctite, but sometimes this is all I could find. It's the same stuff. I don't want to get glue on this table or my shirt, so I got to be careful. I would typically put a lot of glue, but since we are going to submerge this in resin, it's going to hold everything in place. We won't need to worry about doing excessive super glue. This came out good so far. I'm going to go ahead and next step is we're going to paint all these little pieces here, and then we are going to glue them in place, and then we'll do the resin pour and then the reveal. So it's just a little quick project. I just want to show what this will look like, and yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, welcome back. It's the next day and we're going to do some painting now. So for the purples, this is more of a plum color. It's called, this is Deco Art paint. It's called Poetic Plum. We have Apple Barrel. You could use any brands. This is just what I have. This is bright magenta. We got Apple Barrel Jack-o'-lantern. And for the turquoise, we have Caribbean by Apple Barrel. So I'm just going to pour a little bit into this paint tray. Let me see if I can find a replacement for that magenta. That's too bad. The magenta was the perfect shade, but I don't think there's any paint in here. Let's see. Oh, maybe I can get some out. Maybe I can get some of the magenta out. I'm gonna leave it sitting here upside down. We'll start with the plum. The plum's gonna be for the border piece. So if you can see my logo here, all that, it looks purple, but behind the purple lighting, it's actually more of a plum color. So I'm gonna stick with the plum. And the brushes I'm using, I like these. They're called Dagger Striper, and they have like a angled edge. I have a smaller one, but I can't find it right now. So I'm going to use that and another brush here. I'm just painting here on top of some newspaper. As you can see, I primed this ahead of time. I just thought it would be easier to paint. Trying to paint on straight, like white or any kind of filament is not the easiest. If I try to paint on white filament, it's not going to take very well. It's going to take layers and layers to adhere, to fully cover. And here we're getting probably in 2 layers, I'll be good. So they do make a white primer, which I'm probably going to get, because you know, whites just kind of keep your colors more true. You get more of the true tone, as where the gray is going to probably darken your colors up a little bit, and you'll have to go over it, maybe even an extra coat, just to get that solid true color. So for stuff like this, I'm thinking of starting to use a white primer. Maybe even for cosplay helmets, if I'm painting like a white stormtrooper helmet, I would go with a white primer maybe. I mean, I have used gray primer with the white stormtrooper helmet. Then again, spray paints are a little thicker, so you should be fine with a gray primer. But for thin acrylic coats like this, I might start using a white primer. So we're gonna just do this first coat here, let this dry, and then, you know, since my hand's on part of it, we'll let that dry, and then we'll touch up where I didn't get paint. Now this is considered more of like a one-day project, although, you know, 3D printing does take time, so I don't know if it's actually a one-day. For me, it's more of a 2-day project. And on my sign, the 3D is a little bit lighter than this plum color. So I'm wondering if I should go with a different color there. Let me see. The cool thing about acrylic paints is you can pretty much find any color. Like, they have so many varieties. If you can't find a color, you can make it. I think that I'm gonna just stick with the plum because I don't have anything lighter than this. It's like slightly lighter, so I'll just stick with the plum. It's fine. So what we're doing is painting all these little 3D printed pieces the colors they're supposed to be, and then we're going to glue them onto that board or to the tray with the Gyroid letters, and then we're going to fill it with resin. So that's really the fun part, I would say. Working with resin is messy, so we're going to wear gloves. We're going to try our absolute hardest not to get resin or paint on this camera. And yeah, we cannot get paint on the camera, so I'm going to go ahead with the orange. Now with this piece, it's going to be gradient, so I would go ahead and start putting these pieces in the order they're supposed to be. Looks like this piece goes here. No. Just like that. Wait, this is all wrong. This goes up here. I think. Now the turquoise starts around this area. Again, I could see the gray through this, so we are going to need to do coats. I would just put some on there, let it dry, and we'll go over it again. So again, this is going to be a gradient, so I would go about halfway. And then we're going to hit the pink, and the pink's going to overlap with the turquoise and create like a purple color here. So this one is going to need multiple coats because you can see right through that. I would say 3 to 4 coats. Again, gradient, so this turquoise is going to meet up with some orange and create a gradient here as well. Orange. Oops. Well, I guess I'll do the magenta. As you can see, I didn't have a whole lot of it, but we're going to try to get some more out of the bottle. All right. You see how it's really thick like that? I don't usually paint like that. I mean, I'll thin stuff out. I'll brush it until it's very thin. I'd rather have thin coats, thin even coats, and let the coats, you know, if they're thin, that's fine. Let them be thin. We'll go over it with several thin coats. You don't want to glob paint on. That's a mistake I see a lot of people do when they're painting small dioramas or figures. They'll glop paint on. You don't really want that. I think I just put too much on to begin with here, because it's not really a porous surface. It's pretty flat surface. So anyways, we're gonna start this gradient here. We'll just meet the pink up with the turquoise. And then we'll go over You know, we're doing several layers, so it's not going to be a line like that. We're going to overlap these colors. I could actually do a little more here. And then we'll overlap the pink with some more turquoise. All right. Alright guys, so real quick, I thought I lost all the footage for this this video on how to do this epoxy resin logo. So I went ahead and finished it thinking I wasn't going to have any footage, so I wasn't going to post. And then I went and I found the footage, so I'm done with the project. So I guess what I could do is reveal it and kind of walk you through how I did it. So let's go ahead and do that. Epoxy resin is so sticky and hard to work with. As you can see, there's spots here on my table. I got resin. Oh, it looks like it kind of comes off. I'm hoping it does. Oh, it does come off. Thank God. Once it dries, it'll come off. But you know, I take pictures here on this desk. I'm trying to keep it white. So epoxy resin is not my favorite medium because it's so messy to work with, but you know, I'm trying to get rid of what I have here. So here's two of the bottles, and you can see how dirty they are. I would recommend wearing gloves when you do this, but there's the A and the B. I don't even know what brand these are. I think they're from Amazon. So it'll say 1:1 crystal clear, highest UV resistance. So, you know, something like this. I have some gallon ones too. So these are small. These are 1/4 of a gallon each, and I have full gallon ones, but yeah, there's a little left in there and I'm trying to use it up. So that's why I wanted to do this project. So what I did was I have one of these silicone cups here, and these stirrers are also silicone. You could probably use wood if you just throw them away afterwards, but you could see here's a lot of the dry, you know, the dry resin. You kind of just let it harden, and then you can just peel it off in one piece and throw it away. But I'll do, for this project, I think I did, so the part A resin, I did 6 ounces. And then I poured that into another cup, like a tall plastic disposable cup. And then part B, I did another 6 ounces. So I had 12 ounces of epoxy. You stir that all up for quite a while. I'd say 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Make sure it's completely mixed. And then you just start pouring. To get like a really clean top layer, I would recommend not having any dust or anything, you know, or fans on, anything that's going to get into your resin. But let me just go ahead and reveal the finished product here. So you guys remember this tray? It was this black tray here. I finished painting the letters. I glued them in. And then once they were glued in, I started pouring the resin. So this is the reveal. And, you know, it wasn't a perfect top layer. I did one pour, and then, you know, you can see the glossiness of it. It came out really nice. I did one pour, and then I guess I was messing with it with a little toothpick to get some of the bubbles out. And once the acrylic's already kind of thickening, you know, it left a lot of ripples that wouldn't flatten out because, or level out, because it was already thickening up. So now I'm stuck with, well, I was stuck with a lot of ripple marks. So what I did this morning, I poured some more, like another top layer to kind of, you know, level it off there was a little bit of room to level it off, and now it's smooth again. But then I got a bug that landed somewhere over here in the corner, and you know, I'm not even gonna mess with it. That bug just really ruined it. But there are a couple little air bubbles that I'm not gonna worry about either. This is gonna go on my wall, probably above my pegboard. So I think it came out really neat. I mean, you could do any logo, any design you want. You know, increase the wall height so it's like a tray. And then, like, you know, you guys saw I glued in the lettering. I painted them all by hand except for the Gyroid letters, which were printed in white. Everything else was painted with acrylic paint. And then I just poured my resin. So, I mean, it looks cool. I'm definitely going to put it on my wall. It's something that, again, resin is very messy to work with, but I would recommend put it down on newspaper, pour your resin, and within 12 hours you can touch the top layer, and 24 hours, this is just from my experience, within 24 hours it's usually fully cured, at least enough to handle it. Now there's a lot of resin here, so I wouldn't like bend it or anything. I would give it, you know, I would give it 2 days. After 24 hours, you know, you could try to hang it up, but once it's up, just, you know, let it cure a little bit better. I know that I made some other resin stuff in the past, and like, for example, I made a pair of brass knuckles, and those brass knuckles were soft until I'd say like a whole week of dry time. All the liquid came out, and that resin really hardens up. So, you know, after a week, you know, put this on your wall or put it to the side. After a week, it's going to be solid. It's not going to be, you know, at all, you know, like watery or gel like. It's going to be nice and solid. So yeah, this thing came out great, and you guys can do one too. Any logo, any design, get yourself some small bottles of resin and 3D print some letters, and, you know, have some fun with it. You know, this was an example. Just, you know, I have plenty of Gyroid 3D logos. I have my little acrylic one here. I got, you know, this one up on the wall. So not that I need more, but I'm definitely going to use it. And just wanted to show you guys how you can make your own. It came out great. Thank you guys for watching. Again, just another quick video of a DIY you guys could do yourself. Customize it to whatever you like with 3D printing and epoxy resin. We'll see what I do next time. I love mixing medias. I did the diorama video, which was using cardboards and glue and 3D printing and all kinds of other materials. So again, guys, if there's anything you want to do, pursue, or create, it's time to get creative.